If we're talking gaming phones, one of the devices that has to be top of mind is the ROG Phone. It's one of the best in the market. Now, the team and I have spent some time with the newest iteration of this device, the ROG Phone 9 Pro. And while it may seem like a specs bump on paper, they've added fantastic quality of life updates that make it the top dog in this special niche when it comes to Android smartphones. Now, the question is, do the updates and the specs bump make it worth checking out? Without beating around the bush, let's talk about the hardware. Like most flagship devices in 2025, this has the Snapdragon 8 Elite processor under the hood, and our review unit comes with 24 gigabytes of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage. Now, if you guys don't think that's enough, my question to you is, what are you guys doing with your phones? Taking a look at the benchmark scores, we can easily see that this device does hang with the elite flagships. Yes, pun intended, that have already come out this year. And yes, the scores may be a bit behind, but when you're actually using the phone, you can't really tell the difference. Besides, the ROG Phone 9 Pro excels at gaming, and the advantage of this device is that it can maintain peak performance for longer thanks to its more complex cooling system. Combine that with accessories like their chill case, which saw temps peak at 45 degrees for us while playing one of the most demanding games available on Android today, or their AeroActive X Cooler Pro that kept temps within the 40-degree mark during our testing, then you can really feel the difference. The AeroActive Cooler also gives you access to the frozen setting when plugged in that further reduces temps down to the mid-30s. So even in the sweltering summer heat that we're now experiencing in the Philippines, thermals shouldn't be an issue for this device. But when unplugged, this phone's 5800 milliamp hour battery still exhibits really great endurance. It clocked in at a time of 20 hours and 24 minutes with X mode off on our battery benchmarks, which translates to about a day and a half of moderate use. But with X mode on, it lasted nearly 9 hours, which is impressive since most phones only last up to 3 hours if used purely for hardcore gaming. It shouldn't come as a surprise that this phone delivers the goods in terms of gaming performance, but like I said, there are a lot of quality of life updates in the software side that makes the experience even better, like the ones with the air trigger or the extra buttons on the AeroActive Cooler that now has more support for games. Now, it took them a while to really maximize these, and while I wouldn't say that they're 100% there, one thing they added was native support for games like Genshin Impact and Wuthering Waves, with Genshin getting the bulk of the support with key macros for these Hoyoverse titles without the risk of getting banned. The Game Genie also allows for things like auto-run and auto-loot functions for Genshin Impact, which isn't really a big plus if you look at it objectively, but if you play Genshin Impact, it makes a huge difference if you're just grinding and farming out materials. Okay, so what about the rest of the phone? Does it actually deliver? For the screen, the specs on paper remain largely the same as last year's model with one exception: the refresh rate, which now is cranked up to 185 Hz. It's great and it's really responsive, but let's face it, not a lot of games will be able to take advantage of this. That being said, this is still a flagship screen that looks amazing for watching content and is bright enough to be used outdoors with a peak brightness of 2500 nits. The stereo speakers are also on point, but the added subwoofer on the AeroActive X Cooler does add that low-end punch that phones can't produce. The design of the ROG 9 Pro also stays pretty much the same from before, which isn't a huge deal in my opinion. And I really appreciate that it doesn't scream, "I am a gamer phone," like really loudly. Of course, there's still a touch of gamer DNA with the anime display. It's nothing we haven't seen from them before, but as a tito, I like the novel additions this year. It still shows the notifications, but they've added a bunch of retro games that you can play using the air triggers, such as Snake, Space Invaders, Brick Game, and the Dinosaur Game without even an internet connection. If you owned a Nokia phone from back in the day, Snake, god tier game, hit me up in the comment section, my fellow titos and titas. But going back to the design, it's also worth noting that this gaming phone has an IP68 rating for that added protection. Now, in terms of the camera performance and the camera hardware on this device, it's still pretty much the same as last year's. But to recap, you have a 50 megapixel main camera, a 13 megapixel ultrawide, and a 32 megapixel telephoto with 3x optical zoom and OIS. The specs may be the same, but they have vastly improved on this area, starting with the ROG Phone 8 And Dewey was able to take this with him on his recent trip to Japan, and it does deliver decent results across the board, but we just can't say that they're flagship levels of good. After all, ROG did have to compromise somewhere, and they most likely reserved the best camera features for the Asus Zenfone 12 Ultra. So if you're looking for a camera phone, this is definitely not it. In terms of pricing, the ROG Phone 9 Pro that we have with us, with 24GB of RAM and 1TB of storage, plus the Aero Active Cooler, is priced at 76,995 pesos. I know it's a lot of money, but there are other versions. For example, you have the FE, which is priced at 44,995 and has an early bird price of 39,995 pesos. And the Pro also has another configuration with 16GB of RAM and 512GB of storage, which is priced at 62,995, which is still a lot of money, and why we will end this video by answering the question, should you get the ROG Phone 9 Pro? Now, we all know that this is a very niche smartphone that will appeal to a very small part of the market, especially if you take the price into consideration. If you're a part of the small percentage looking for an S-tier experience with mobile games and you have the budget for it, definitely look into the ROG Phone 9 Pro. The ROG phones have been like god level when it comes to gaming smartphones for a reason. Plus, you have the quality of life updates like better support for air triggers, the cooling system on the phone, and the active aero cooler. Plus, the subwoofer on it adds to everything that makes this one of the best gaming phones out there. But if your budget is reserved for a daily driver that delivers more across the board, then you might want to check out all the other great Android flagships that have already come out. We've put together a playlist of the devices that we've already checked out this year, so you can easily check them out. But that's pretty much it for me. My name is Tito James. Peace, God bless, and I'll see you guys in the next one.